Hi everybody, thanks for joining us today. My name is Clementine and I will be your host. Please note that we cannot hear you as you are all on mute. But if you have any question during the presentation, please feel free to use the chat window and we will address any question during an open Q&A session at the end. So let's begin with an introduction of today's speakers, Jeff and Tim. So would you like to start?
Yep, hello everybody. So, Jean-François Piot here, we have an echo. Let's fix that. Okay, so I guess that you can see our presentation. So, I am Jean-François Piot, I'm a product manager at GSX. GSX since 2008, and I am with Tim for this webinar. Tim, hello.
Hi everybody, my name is Tim Book. I'm a technical sales manager here and an IBM specialist. I've been with GSX since 2009. I take care of a lot of the pre-sales operations and work with a lot of our customers.
Okay, thank you, Tim, to be the voice of America on that webinar. So let's go maybe quickly in the agenda. So the purpose of the webinar, of course, is to show you how GSX Monitor is able to alert you on IBM connection, portal, with CDB2, all of that. But it's also to put that in context and to present you real use case and that happen to customers. And where GSX can really help you. So after a brief of GSX solution of the company, because some of you don't know us, we will go straight into this use case and explain and do the demo, show you how GSX Monitor can solve this use case. We will then have Fabrice from the company Teradyne that will quickly explain his project and how he's using GSX to monitor his IBM connection and portal environment. I will finally give you some roadmap information before going to the Q&A session. So maybe let's go quickly into an overview of GSX solution, again for all the people that don't know GSX at the moment. I'll try to be quick for all the people that already know us. So GSX solution, we've been founded in 1996, started with domino monitoring. So it's now 20 years that we monitor the IBM environment. We have offices a bit everywhere in the world. We have offices in Boston, we have offices in Buffalo, so that's our 2 offices in the US. The headquarters is in Geneva, in Switzerland. We have offices in London, development in Nice, and development as well in Bangalore, and we have also sales and tech sales as well in Singapore and India. So we have 600 customers, 40 countries, and again 20 years of experience monitoring all the IBM applications. So let's go on the next slide now. So some customer reference. I go fast on that because, I mean, we have 600 customers, of course, so it was complex to put 600 logos here. Just to tell you that we are working mostly with large companies, bank, health insurance, industry, manufacturing, I mean, a bit of everybody. What we work with people that care about their messaging environment and their IBM application. So as soon as it's critical for your company, you need to have the best tool to monitor and to make sure it's working for your end user, and basically that's what we provide, and that's how we are working with all of these customers. So GSX for IBM Collaboration Suite. So well, basically, we are providing monitoring for a lot of the IBM Collaboration Suite. You can see in this slide that we cover the entire IBM application. So from Domino to Quicker, same time, Traveler, DB2, connection, and any kind of WebSphere and portal application. So from one single dashboard in GSX, and again, our customers know that already, and people that don't know us, you will see that in a few minutes. So from that single dashboard, you can monitor all these applications without installing any code on any server. So GSX provides you with an agentless technology that will never impact the server or the network. The purpose is to help you provide the best possible services to your end user and not to impact it. So most of our monitoring features are based on end-user scenario, trying to access the application as a user and checking the health of the underlying infrastructure. Our monitoring tool provides multiple ways to be alerted. We will see that as well in a few minutes, and a perfect integration with any other large monitoring or ticketing system, for example, BMC Patrol or Remedy or anything like that. Our monitoring tool provides as well reporting in order for you to have SLA and to track your SLA, and you are able to collect the statistics and be alerted on any critical statistics that matters for all your applications. So now that we have seen a bit the big picture of GSX Monitor, let's go into IBM Connection, Infrastructure, and Application Monitoring. So IBM Connection, well, you know what it is. It provides application to ease the collaboration between end users. So it is important to start the monitoring from where the users are. The question is it possible to connect to this application? So to be proactively monitoring the infrastructure, of course you need to monitor the access to the application, but you need to make sure that the network between your user and the server is working well. You need also to make sure that the WebSphere node, the GVMs, the database server, that everything is healthy and running. And that's what GSX provides as a monitoring tool. It's not only the application, it's not only a part of the infrastructure, it's the global big picture that makes sure that everything is running fine and that your users are happy. User satisfaction is important. And okay, they do mistakes. They are generally the biggest point of failure of your infrastructure, but your job is to provide the best possible services. And that is why the first thing GSX does is to connect to the application as a user would do, and then check all the underlying infrastructure. So now let's go directly to the first use case, and then we will be able to mix use case and demo and show you the value of the monitoring with GSX Monitor. So sorry for this slide, there's a lot of text in it, but I love to write a lot. So the first use case is about something that can happen a lot. Basically an application is not working. And in this use case, it was the wiki. And of course, end user call, complain, wiki is not available anymore, and so it's a tragedy, and so you, of course, the admin, have to fix it. So what did he do? The first thing was, of course, to isolate the issue. It's to know if the problem happened only on that user or on other users. So the first thing is the admin to check if he's able to access to the wiki himself. And obviously, that time, it was really done. Other applications seems also to be a bit slow, but they were still working. So we check the network to see if there is like a DNS issue that could be the root cause of the problem, or any kind of internal network that would be slow, and nothing was wrong with the network. So then he checked the WebSphere server itself. The deployment manager was certainly working well, because otherwise other applications would have been impacted. So the next step was to check every WebSphere node and GVM running the wiki application. So he did several tests, he did several scripts to get the statistics, and finally he realized that the heap size for this application reached a critical point. The heap size, for people that don't know what it is the memory used by Java for this application. It is increased by the system when the amount of memory isn't sufficient. So the problems comes when too many nodes are increasing their heap size. And it's basically what was happening at that moment. The application was clearly out of memory. It means that this application failed, and it means also that every other application was about to fail. So the final step was to identify the root cause of that insane value of heap size. Globally, when you have a problem with the heap size, you check your garbage collector. The garbage collector is responsible for the management of the memory used by all applications. It cleans the memory unnecessarily used. In that case, the garbage collector process stopped working properly, allowing the heap size to grow indefinitely. And that is why it's very important to constantly have a view on that heap size and everything else we have seen in that use case. So the customer has now GSX deployed to proactively monitor the whole environment, checking the heap size, the WebSphere node, etc., etc. The admin can know the early sign of this kind of potential issues and fix them before a real problem happens. So now we'll let Tim show you a first part of the demo that is linked to that use case and show you how you would be able, with GSX Monitor, to see that issue before it really impacts the user and fix them before. Tim, maybe we can switch, yes?
Thanks, Jeff. Everybody should be seeing our GSX Monitor popping up here shortly. Looks like it has. So for those that are not familiar with GSX, I'll take a very, very quick overview of it. This is our GSX Monitor product here. This is the main view. You have your entire unified collaboration suite here all on one dashboard. So just very quickly glancing over, you can see if there's any problems in different areas of the environment. We've got our messaging servers, we've got our application servers, mobility servers, different Windows server, database servers, everything on one dashboard here, and I can view what's going on in my environment. There's also the proactive alerting part as well, which we're going to talk about when we go into the settings a little bit. So like Jeff had mentioned, we're talking about IBM Connections here, and we're talking about the Wikis application itself, with our use case being that some of the, users have reported some slowdown, some issues trying to access the application. So what are we going to be able to help out with IBM Connections? Here we've got our connection servers that we're monitoring. Again, using the tooltips and the LEDs, I can quickly see if there's some issues that are going on in the environment. And again, since we're doing things like a user would, we're hopefully simulating that activity and alerting you to a problem before it actually becomes something that they report. If I glance over my tooltips here, I can see a lot of the information about the different pieces of the suite that we're monitoring here. So we've got our system LED and a URL response. Basically, we are connecting like a user would to a specific URL on connections and making sure that we get a good response. And I'll show you those settings inside of the server application there. We've got our WebSphere information. So we're monitoring all the different WebSphere nodes, some system-level statistics, memory information, disk information here. And as you can see, we can see what the heap size is, all the different memory parameters for the JVM. This is the information that Jeff was talking about here. As an administrator, you can get an alerts to say if it's gone over a defined threshold that's based upon the history in your environment or what you're comfortable with, and then get an alert in case there's a problem. Hopefully you get that before it becomes an actual user-facing issue, okay? Then we've got our DB2 information here, making an actual DB2 connection to the database, grabbing some information, looking at the application information, and then making sure that it's healthy. So I'll open up the actual configuration here. We tell the server where the server actually is, give it an alias. Everything inside of Monitor is customizable, so you can customize how often to scan this object, this server, this scenario, whatever it may be, when to retry, when to actually send an alert. You can define business hours, gives you very customizable and flexible alerting here. The URL settings here, here's where we were talking about with the URL that we're going to be opening. So in this case, I'm just opening up the logon page, and it's telling me here that I expect to receive this string back. I want to make sure that that page not actually, let's say I get a connection to the server, but it actually loads the proper information. So I've got some known text here that's going to come back when I open that page. That should be okay. If it's not, then you'll get an alert. You have a status code alert in case you don't get a OK or a 200. You've got the search string alert if that text is not found, if the page you go to is not expected somehow. And then you've got an access time alert if it takes longer than X amount of seconds for us to load here. Again, opening up it just like a user would using that URL. Then we've got the WebSphere application monitoring. We're monitoring the deployment manager itself, giving us some WebSphere credentials to be able to log in and grab the information. Then we've got the individual nodes here. In our environment, we've just got the one node that we're monitoring here. So you fill in DB2 information, hostname information, node information, and then it goes in and grabs all the information about the connections application itself. The alerts associated with that, WebSphere status, heap size, used memory, and CPU utilization, all system type level statistics that can indicate performance issues. Again, Java very dependent upon memory constraints and availability of resources. So for instance, if the garbage collector is not running and grabbing information, you're going to start running into some problems with application slowness, response time, crashes, things like that. So very, very important to get information about that, let's say under a certain threshold that might not directly affect people, perhaps, but it could be something you want to know as an administrator to say, well, I know it's outside of a quote-unquote normal threshold that I normally have, send me an alert and then I can restart some processes, start up the garbage collector again, reboot servers, add resources, whatever it may be to solve that issue. DB2, so grabbing into the DB2 database directly. We installed it on our same time server, so pay no attention to the host name there. But you pick your application that you want to be monitoring, so you would actually create a different server entry for each of the applications. Here, for this case, we're talking specifically about Wiki. We give it some credentials to be able to log in, and then you have an alert again to be able to send an alert to whomever you want. Just to quickly touch on the alerting system, if I open up the alert profile, any alertable condition in Monitor has a profile associated with it. So I've got different alerts that I can send on the left-hand side here, emails, pagers to people. We integrate with different third-party products like Tivoli and Remedy, et cetera, sending SNMP traps. You can launch command line programs. Really very flexible here, so I can assign different profiles to different types of alerts. Memory issues I can assign to the admins. If there's a disk space issue, I can maybe send it to the storage team. Individual server information I can maybe send to an admin, but if a cluster is down for messaging servers, I can send to the on-call team and open up a ticket with the help desk, on and on and on. So lots of different ways you can do things here. Different types of alerts, reminders, escalation points, et cetera, et cetera. And that goes for any product that we have inside of the suite here. Maintenance, we don't run any maintenance on the servers, but you can split your stats with and without maintenance, and you can also suppress alerting during that time. Very handy for scheduled downtime, holidays, things like that. And then our categorization is how we organize the information inside of the tool itself. So that's the IBM Connections Monitoring here. What Jeff was talking about, the progression of the troubleshooting there, going from checking basic access to checking the network to DB2 information. We have that in here as well. So we have what's called a connections network check. This will actually go out and monitor different pieces of the network to make sure that the access is good there. Application could be running, heap size, memory thresholds could be within certain norms, but if the network to get from your users' end stations to the connection servers is poor, saturated, something like that, then the end user experience, what we're actually trying to monitor, is going to be having an issue. They're going to be reporting bad issues to your environment. So here, if I look at the network check here, I've got the trace route information, different network hops that I've taken, so I can actually measure all the different hops that we're going to take and then report on where the latency actually lies. I've got some port information, so I can scan for different ports on the endpoint, in this case connections. I'm only scanning for port 80, but I could add SSL ports, I could add WebSphere ports, whatever I want to here. We've got a DNS resolution check. So one of the services that could be involved in a service degradation could be DNS. Network's working, servers are working, but if users can't resolve names, they can't get to your resources by name, there could be a problem there. So we put in some information. And then we also have a witness check as well. Everything looks okay internally, or maybe it doesn't look okay. You want to have a third-party check out there to make sure if it is actually on your network, if it's a global issue, something like that. If we add the configuration, we're going to see similar sorts of information. Our endpoint, how to scan, again, customizable. Those ports that we're setting, here I've just done the same ones, but you can put any 3 that you want. Our DNS resolution time with a threshold and an alert. The witness, in this case, we're just pinging out Google to make sure if we can't access our internal resources, if Google's coming up and I know it's something on the LAN or maybe a WAN link as opposed to some sort of a global or a larger scale routing issue. And then our maintenance and our categorization, same information as you see. Last piece is the connections DB2. So we've got the system access itself. We've got resource information, all the different statistics that could be associated with it, CPU, memory, disk, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've got the workload information here, disk-based information, I/O, weights, latency, things like that. We added our configuration here. If we go into, sorry, our screen was freezing up here. We grab the database information that we want to be scanning. Same scanning settings. You have different resource alerts based on memory for the DB2 server, workload information, disk space statistics that you can record and report on, and then our maintenance and our categorization just like before. Okay. So again, it's kind of a, let's say, a holistic approach to the environment, to the monitoring, looking at all different pieces, how your users are interacting with the resources and how they could be inside of what information you can grab, what information you can alert on. Last piece here, if I go into my statistics and web statistics, here is that information that we're talking about. So all the different metrics that we're gathering on memory, heap size, everything, this is where we can graph that information and see the progression over time. So are we looking at peaks and valleys during certain times? Was there an issue for the past couple of hours, now it's resolved itself? Where is it looking to go on? that's the kind of information you can grab with GSX here. So using this here, hopefully you get some sort of idea to a problem that's occurring right now. And then also another theory is that you get a alert or a message before it actually becomes a problem. Okay, so just a little bit long on there. Just want to make sure I covered all the pieces. I'll turn it over to Jeff, who's going to talk about our next use case.
Thank you, Tim, for this first part, long part of demo, but again, it was also to introduce a bit the tool to everybody. So the second use case now is, well, another thing that can happen is my profile page is slow. So of course, when it's slow, people think it doesn't work. Once again, same thing. It was at one of our customers that didn't have GSX at that time. So the end user complained. His life was basically over because his profile page was really slow to download. And he also said that everything looked slow that morning. And eventually the help desk got a lot of calls about the same issue. So once again, the admin first checked the network to look for network latency, internal, external, DNS resolution time, everything was fine. Then he checked the WebSphere node, the GBMs, and all the memory statistics, a bit like he did in the last use case. And that time, WebSphere was perfect, and the garbage collector was running fine. So the next step was to go deeper and to analyze the health of the DB2 database. So DB2 database and DB2 server. So we tried to do an ODBC connection to the DB of the profile, and it was really slow to access. So now we had to understand why. So after multiple scripts to collect statistics again, you realized that some key statistics like I/O wait time and log times were abnormally high with a very high value, while the BP hit was very low compared to the IBM standards. So these statistics, maybe you don't know them, but they're telling that the DB2 server cache is in trouble. The BP hit shows how the cache is used compared to disk access. It represents the total hit ratio for the local buffer pool. If the cache has problem, the DB2 server constantly makes disk access, and that slows everything. So once again, a real-time monitoring of these critical statistics would have alerted the admin before every user starts to call the help desk. On top of that, the risk was really high to have a general breakdown of every IBM application connection application. So GSX Monitor is now helping as an administrator for that situation not to happen again. And so we can switch again to Tim that will show you a second part of the demo, maybe a bit more focus on DB2 that time to explain what could be done in this situation.
Absolutely. So I'm going to switch back to our main view here. So our second case here, we're talking about the profiles pages. Again, we have different entries for the servers for each of the applications. I'll open up the profiles. Nothing much going to change on here except that we're actually specifying the profiles database inside of our DB2 connection here. So same information as you see before, connecting just like a user would, building the URL, making sure it comes back correctly, WebSphere information, alerts associated with that, and then the DB2 information here. If we hover over, we'll see the same sorts of information. We can connect to the URL just fine like a user would. WebSphere, we're having the same sort of issue here, so we can maybe take a look at that, resources, garbage collection. And then our DB2 server here, it looks okay itself. Now this portion here is the DB2 check for the IBM Connections entity, we call it inside of GSX Monitor. It goes into the database, grabs some information, grabs a little bit of statistics inside of there. But what we actually have for that is a dedicated DB2 object that we're going to use that gives us much more in-depth information. That's a little bit what I showed before, so I'll spend just a little bit more time on it. If I open up my database here. So we did cover a little bit of this here, connectivity, scanning, resource alerts. Again, system level alerts, very important. If it doesn't have enough resources, you're going to start getting timeouts and lock waits and things like that. Some workload alerts here. So disk I/O, input-output operations, waiting for the disk to be ready. Average lock time, how long it's waiting for an action to happen. Looking at these statistics, you can gather this information, get alerts if they exceed certain thresholds. Why is that important, like Jeff had mentioned? If these statistics start becoming out of whack, you're starting to experience a lot of latency on the disk if you're waiting for the disk constantly to respond to a request. If there's a long time accessing it, these problems are going to compound themselves. So they may be very small instances, very small events that are happening, but over time, as that adds up with more and more workload, more and more users connecting, more and more applications, more resource-intensive applications, larger disk volumes you're dealing with, all these things can compound each other. So a small problem here with a little bit of latency on one day may exert itself to a much larger problem later on. So very, very important to monitor this information, very, very important to take a look at everything here and be alerted, hopefully, before it becomes an actual problem. Again, the buffer pool hit ratio here, very, very important. I direct statistical alert for that. Set your limit on what you want to be alerted on, have an alert associated with that. We've actually disabled it here because it's our test environment. We didn't want to be bothered with a bunch of alerts. But you would put in a profile here that emails, pages, whatever you want to do. Okay, and our maintenance categorization, just like we talked about before. Here you've got another example with the network check here. So I'll just actually go into the graph section. So all of our different profiles or platforms that we're monitoring here, we have the graph associated with it. Let me go down to DB2, and you can see all the different statistics that we're graphing out. If I look at I/O wait time, for example, I can see the evolution, I can see the progression. So here's my 3 DB2 servers that I'm monitoring. Let's open up this guy here. And you can see here over the different scan cycles. The amount of information here is how often you're scanning the server, how many days of data you want to store inside of here. But it gives you a nice idea of what's going on in the environment, all the different peaks and valleys, all the different potential issues that might be going on here. And again, you're going to get those alerts associated with that as well. Okay, so let me grab it over to Jeff one last time for our third use case.
Yep, thank you. So let's go to the third use case and the last one. So now we have seen a bit of IBM connection. We have seen what can happen on the WebSphere node, and the DB2, etc. So now let's take a look at Portal. Portal runs a lot of really important business applications, and it can run a lot of sales application as well, for example. So in that use case, it's now a salesperson that calls the support. And of course, that salesperson is on his biggest sale of the year, and suddenly his pricing tool, that is a Portal application, is not working anymore. So his life is clearly in danger, so the admin decided to check what's going on. It seemed that several applications were impacted by the issue. So they were all hosted on IBM Portal. And once again, the volume of help desk calls started to rise dramatically. So the first thing, network again, checking if the internal network is going fine, if it can be something like that in the data center, everything was fine. So we decided to quickly check the Portal server, and it was easy to see that the Portal server at that time had crashed. So after an emergency restart of the service, the admin decided to understand what happened. And so for that, he checked every WebSphere node. Every WebSphere node were looking fine. So the next step was to check the DB2 database and the server. And after multiple scripts and researches, he found out that the table space reached a dangerous value. Basically, too many applications were sharing the table space in two small entities. And that made the IBM Portal server go out of memory and ultimately crash. So now that the issue was spotted, the admin reorganized the table space in order to prevent further incidents. Once again, a proper monitoring of every critical component of the IBM Portal infrastructure, as you can see, is very important, because this kind of issue could have been prevented easily checking the table space all the time. And as you know, an IBM Portal crash can have a huge impact on all the business line, and so if you want to avoid it, you need to be aware of early signs of potential incidents. So now Tim will show you the last part of the demo dedicated to the Portal environment and targeted to that specific use case.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Back to our GSX main view. And screen is up there. So here we have our IBM Portal monitoring. One of our latest products that we have released for monitoring for, IBM Portal, actually just came out of beta a couple of days ago, and I had it installed in our demo environment, so a little bit of stress getting that in, but it worked. So same kind of approach to it, like Jeff had mentioned before. The application itself, services and simulations associated with it, network check, DB2 check. We've got our IBM portal LED here. Same thing like connections, URL response code, making sure that that's working well. WebSphere application monitoring, DB2 monitoring. We have an alert for DB2, and we'll explain that in a little bit. We have our portal network check, same as your connections network check. We just specified the portal server as the endpoint. Same settings as before. And then we've got our DB2 backend as well. And that's going to be the same kind of monitoring we see for connections. We just specified, again, DB2 here. Various different statistics that you're going to learn on. Very important to look at that. I won't repeat myself there. We've already seen that a little bit earlier in the demo. Now let's take a look at the portal application itself. We edit the configuration, connection information, when to scan, who to alert, et cetera, URL information, same as before. We changed our port. We changed the URL that we're going to be accessing. Same alerts that we see. We've got the WebSphere monitoring itself. In our environment, we've only got the one node, so I've configured that here. DB2 information, grabbing the information. So the table space name here, sys_tool space, very, very important here. Just like Jeff had mentioned, in our case that this had filled up here, there were some conflicts, and then we started experiencing resource issues and started experiencing slowdowns and crashes of different portal applications. We've got a limit here on the free space, and if you actually look at our tooltip here, you can see that we've exceeded that threshold. We configured 75% to be our threshold. We're down to 1.85. So we've actually got a red LED here. The tooltip will reflect that, and you also get an alert. I generated that yesterday about 2 o'clock. So you can see that alert there. And I would have that message in my inbox. I would have that trap inside of Tivoli, whatever I have configured for the alert, that would have been generated. I could also set a reminder on there. I can escalate in case it hasn't been fixed in a while. Lots of different things you can do. Our maintenance or categorization are going to be the same as that as well. So again, similar to connections, same kind of information, good overview, and make sure everything is okay in the environment, just like a user would be. So with that, I will bring it back over to Jeff here.
Thank you, Tim. So let's finish that webinar. We'll just make a quick wrap-up before having Fabrice telling us about his experience. So really quickly here, we have seen that use case. GSX Monitor is really the tool to detect potential issues before they become problem. So GSX Monitor provides you with a unified dashboard. You have seen that displays the health and performance of the infrastructure, test the availability, performance of the applications themselves from multiple locations if you want to. And more than this availability, it also performs, as we have seen, network diagnostic latency between user and application server. You can then troubleshoot any internal, external network issue. On top of that, we have seen all the WebSphere features that we have to check the health of the WebSphere server itself, and about as well the feature about the DB2 server. We've seen DB2, but you have to keep in mind that we are able to monitor as well the health of the SQL environment as well, if you have IBM connection with SQL. Now, just to again wrap up the benefits, so all these features enable you not only to monitor the health of your data center, but also the quality of services that you deliver to your end user. It's really what we want to do here at GSX. So it allows you to be proactive on your environment, to prevent major issues, and to help you a lot in any troubleshooting. We have seen that you might have when things start to get slow or not available anymore. And finally, it's also a way to justify the level of service that you provide to your end user. So now that we have seen how GSX Monitor can help you with your IBM environment, I will let our guest, Fabrice from Teradyne, explain his experience with GSX solution. So Fabrice, can you hear us? So Fabrice can certainly hear. Yeah, Fabrice?
Yeah, I'm still on mute.
No, you're perfect. We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay, good. Good, thank you. So Teradyne is not as big a company as some of the others that GSX works with, but we've been working with them for many, many years, over a decade at least. And we are in the process right now of deploying our new e-knowledge portal on the IBM portal platform. And it's been a project now for a little over a year. And we started working with GSX late last year and started preparing our go live with all of the new monitoring components that GSX has to offer. We've been using GSX for many years, doing Domino, Traveler, and same time, and DB2 monitoring for same time, and it's worked very well for us. And so my team was going to be the same team supporting the portal infrastructure. It made sense to go talk to GSX and say, hey, you did such a good job with us for same time. How are you guys going to be handling connections and portal? And so we've been working with them for about 6 months now, getting connections ready. And so we went live with Connections 5.5 last week and are monitoring it in production now. It's working quite well for us. We're used to the interface. We like the dashboard look. So it's working out quite well, and we've already started to configure all of the portal and DB2 components for our production environment. We have over 50 JVMs in this big full HA gold standard production environment that we're setting up, so there's a lot of components to monitor, and we really wanted to have a way to do it at a granular level without basically having to worry about client installs and setups on all of the components. So I think GSX was a great fit for us, making that happen. So we're planning on going live with our portal deployment at the end of this quarter, the beginning of next quarter. The dates are still being worked on, but we plan to have everything ready already in GSX pre-go live. So we're going to have all of that monitoring set up. And we have a lot already because there's, 14 JVMs and connections and 14 DB2 servers and, DB2 databases, and we've got an HA environment, and, all those things kind of add up. So we're also looking forward to the new, coming up in the next slides, the new browser-based dashboards that GSX are working on. So those will also make it easier to be able to target on the issues. And I think that's about it. That's the story.
Okay. Oh, but thank you, Fabrice. It's cool to have a happy customer with us on that webinar to show as well that yeah, it's not only a slide, or it's not only a demo version. It's something that you run really in your environment, and that is your life. I mean, that's why you take monitoring tool. And it was good to mention as well the new dashboard we are working on, because basically it's a very good transition to my next slide.
Great.
So,
thank you.
So thank you for that, Fabrice.
And thank you for all the great work in the last 6 months getting this set up for us. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we can go on the next slide. A quick element of a roadmap for customer, and also to speak quickly about the roadmap. So I don't know if we can see the slide now. So I want to conclude with a few words about that web dashboard. So that web dashboard will be available in late October, and we give you another way to look at your server, at your service, at the critical statistics that you want to monitor. So the dashboard is made to provide you with advanced filtering and sorting capabilities of every monitored object. You can see as well, even if it's small here, that it enhances dramatically our graphs and the way you can play with them. You'll be able to zoom easily on the portion of the graph you want to check. You'll be able to compare, to organize them in your customized dashboard. So that's something that is a bit like the mix between our statistics view or graph view. It's really state of the art of the technology. It's touchscreen, of course, so you can use that on every tablet, touchscreen, laptop, etc. And again, it's the first version in October, and then we will improve and improve and improve, always getting new features to help you always have the best view on your services, troubleshoot when there is an issue, etc. So the second slide on the roadmap is more about the pure monitoring capabilities. So it's coming in like 1 second. Just to recap a bit what we have been working on this last couple of quarters. I still don't see the slide, but it should come. So this year was a very big year for us because we released a lot of monitoring capabilities. We have seen for IBM Connection, for DB2, for Portal. We released as well for Iron Port, for SQL, for Kemp as well. That is a part of the teradyne environment. And so now you should be able to see the slide, I hope, in some seconds. So we have released a lot of different things. It's really the first year that we have been able to release as many environments as before. So we have also finished our network latency diagnostic features for all the applications as we have seen, and as well for Office 65. Quick word on Office 65, as we had a lot of customers moving to that new platform. So we have finished development of ADFS, Azure, AD Connect, and every service, Office 65 services like Exchange, for Business, SharePoint Online. So now you can finally see that beautiful slide. Just to tell you what we are working on right now for this end of year. Basically, we will focus on the MDM part. So the MDM part, Good, AirWatch, Mobile Iron are our main focus for the end of the year, and we should have monitoring capabilities for that before next year. And of course, everything will be integrated in that new web dashboard that you have that we spoke about, and again that will ease the management of so many different environments. So I guess the webinar is now finished. We have the last slide. Our customers know that we are always here to help with the deployment, to test, to make sure that you are using the tool at 100% of its capabilities. If you don't know GSX, now you know that we are doing that. That's a bit our core value to help our customer and our prospect to do that. And just a few words on a special offer that we do before the end of the year, where basically, I mean, if you want to test or if you want even to have your first user connection free, but you can contact us, and we are doing a special offer around that before the end of the year. So I guess now it's time for the Q&A session. So thank you again for your.
So thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
As you said, we've received quite a few interesting questions. And to get started, the first one is it possible to monitor different servers at different locations?
Yeah, that's one of the basic designs of the tool that I actually forgot to mention here, so that's a good question there. We have what we call the GSX robot user. Since we are doing things like a user would, we're simulating that activity, it's very important to know what it looks like from different network locations. You've got your main data center, let's say here in Boston. We've got some satellite offices in Chicago and Shanghai and Amsterdam and things like that. We want to see what it looks like for each of those offices, each of those critical network locations. Somebody in Chicago's experience could be completely different than somebody in Shanghai and vice versa. So with a certain option, you can have a different GSX robot users that actually do the exact same configuration, the exact same scenario testing that we do at each of those locations. You can compare and contrast them, get an alert in case Chicago is slowed down, but everybody in Australia is looking okay, everybody in Florida is looking okay. So yeah, that's one of our common deployments, especially with our larger customers that have a lot of different critical locations they care about. They deploy those GSX monitors out there and monitor what it really looks like from that user perspective, truly at that location. It's a good question.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. The second question is, what versions of Domino or Traveler do you support?
All the way to the latest and all the way back to, I'd have to look it up, Traveler since the beginning, actually, when it first came out. And Domino, I mean, we don't really care about it all the way back to, R2 if you really wanted to. Don't think anybody's running that. I hope you're not. But you shouldn't have any issue monitoring any of those.
Okay, perfect. The next question is, do you monitor all connections application or just a few of them?
We monitor all of them. You would actually create them as different server objects inside of the tool and just select which application you want to specifically monitor. So, and I can show you all real quick here. That would be the portion here.
Okay.
Just waiting for the screen to come up. We've had a little trouble here. There we go. That would be this portion here. So each of these is actually a different connections application. You would add that, fill in the same information, connection server URL is going to be the same, and then you just pick which actual application you want to monitor, create all the ones that are applicable for your environment.
Okay, so thank you for your answer, Tim. And the last question is, do you plan to monitor IBM Connections Cloud?
So I guess that's more a question for me. So yes, we plan to do that. We plan to be able to monitor multiple cloud applications in the next year. We know how to do. It will basically be based on end user scenario and user experience again, as well completed with the network diagnostic. So it should come by the end of the first quarter of next year.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Clementine, I just saw one more question in the chat there I wanted to address. Somebody was asking about the different colors of the LEDs and what they mean and why they're that. Remember, you can quickly see what's going on by looking at the LEDs and the tooltips here. The red one has actually told us that we violated one of the thresholds that we have set and it sent an alert, versus the yellow ones here which say that we've exceeded a threshold but it hasn't reached our defined alerting threshold yet. So, for example, free disk space on a server or in a database, we could say the threshold's 500 megabytes. If it goes below that, it'll change to yellow. But until it actually alerts with that retry frequency that you can customize, it won't actually turn red and won't actually generate the alert, send the trap until it gets there for the specified retries, usually 2 or 3 retries. Okay, just want to, I saw that in there, want to make sure we pointed that out. So.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, thank you, Tim. We are just about to go over time with this webinar, so if we did not get a chance to answer all your questions, so please be assured that we will get back to you in the near future. Thank you all for attending today's webinar, and an evaluation is going to show up in your browsers. Please take a moment to provide us with your feedback, and that will be very much appreciated. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.